Hey VG fans, and welcome again to Games and Gear. This week's episode is going to be a spooky one, because we'll be talking about the top 10 spooky levels and areas in video games. Be sure you're comfortable, because this is going to be a fright you'll never forget. So without further ado, here are the top 10 spooky levels and areas in video games. The first spooky level on my list is Dark Passage from Spyro the Dragon. This one scared me a bit when I was younger. Sometimes the enemies can grow big when the lights go out, and that's when it really scares me, but there's always a way around that.
The enemies here can be quite frightening, but you should watch the fools.
I'd rather flame the fools.
Now you're thinking.
Not only that, but you see these big red imp cherub guys flying around shooting arrows, kinda like that of Cupid, except it's much more sinister. The place really creeped me out. But then again, this is a world of dreams, so stuff like this is probably to be expected.
While chasing Nasty's minions in this world, you must expect the unexpected and prepare for what is not there.
So here's number 9 on the top 10 list. Next up we have Lavender Town for Pokemon Red and Blue. Here you can go to the Pokemon Tower, where you can find Ghastly and Haunter, and occasionally Cubone. However, you must obtain the Silph Scope in order to venture further. That's the only way you can be able to battle a ghost of Cubone's mother, Marowak. The real reason why I included this on the top 10 list was because of a little thing called Lavender Town Syndrome. Apparently, this creepypasta has stated that the music in Lavender Town has caused all sorts of crazy things. I don't want to go into full detail about this here for obvious reasons. The surprising thing is that when Pokemon Gold and Silver was released, Lavender Town was toned down, with the Pokemon Tower now becoming a radio tower. Kinda raises the question of where the ghost Pokemon that reside in the tower went. Okay, so on to our next area on the list. The next one is Mount Wickedness from Tetris Attack. This is where you face off against Hookbill Koopa, Naval Piranha Plant, Kamek, and Bowser. The first 3 fights show each character showing some intimidation, but after you beat the 3, you get this. A giant Bowser pops out of nowhere set to creepy, ominous organ music, which can be really scary. Especially when you're in a dark room with no one else around. After you beat Bowser, he starts to shake with creepy sound effects in the background, which goes on until he completely vanishes out of sight. Despite that, Tetris Attack in my opinion is still a fun game to play, even to this day. The funny thing is, a panic version of the creepy organ music can be heard in its original Japanese version, Panel upon. Yeah, think about that. Next up is Pumpkin Hill from Sonic Adventure 2. This one seems appropriate enough since Halloween is coming up, and I know that when I think of Halloween, I think of pumpkins. For one, you see all these pumpkin statues all over the place, all of whom have big scary grins. Sometimes you would occasionally see ghosts flying around, and there was these train tracks I had to deal with too. I think a place like Pumpkin Hill Zone would be perfect for Sonic and the gang to celebrate Halloween. I wonder if Sonic's World ever celebrated Halloween. I wonder what that would be like. But I'm starting to get off topic here, so let's move on with the next level on the top 10 list. Here's Big Boo's Haunt from Super Mario 64. This was a really creepy level for me growing up. There was a scary castle that you had to go inside. For one, there's a giant eyeball, a whole group of boos floating around, a creepy merry-go-round with music that sounds like something that could be sung by pirates, and to top it all off, there's a giant evil piano that comes out and tries to eat you. That was really creepy. Especially when it comes up to the screen. That would really be a good reason to run out of this room until either was gone or someone just unplugged the console. Whatever comes first. There's other areas to explore as well, like a library, a basement where the merry-go-round area is located, and a balcony we can fight against a giant boo. Okay, can we move on now? Here we have the old Chateau from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Now this haunted place was really creepy. Here you can find ghost Pokemon like Ghastly and Haunter, and sometimes Gengar if you have a Pokemon GBA inserted into the slot. Sometimes you can see ghosts of people just walking around if you enter and exit rooms in a certain way. After you beat the game, this is where you can find Rotom. It can be seen possessing a television. At least it didn't make it so the television would eat you. Now that would be creepy. Being at a place like that at night would totally not go well for me. Especially if I have to deal with ghosts taking control of electronics. I hope I don't implement nightmares for this. Okay, let's move on to the next item on the top 10 list. Here we have the generator room from Crash Bandicoot. Now this one really freaked me out. For one, there was this ominous soundtrack consisting of electronic sounds, almost reminiscent of Raymond Scott. Second, we see monitors of Cortex going back and forth in a somewhat blank expression. You practically see these monitors all throughout the level. Even having to deal with floating robot enemies and often worry about falling if you don't reach far enough can be a pain. I mean, it's bad enough dealing with creepy Cortex faces and the creepy music, but also trying to make it through a level without dying can be very intense. Next up is Venom from Star Fox 64. This is where you fight off against Andross in the final battle. Aside from the giant floating head, his dialogue can be pretty creepy.
I've been waiting for you, Star Fox. Now you will feel true pain.
Later in the fight, you'll find that he's nothing more than a flying brain with eyes.
Only I have the brains to rule Lilac.
So, Andross, you show your true form.
And this was way before that Whirly Brains episode of SpongeBob SquarePants aired. If that isn't grounds for nightmare fuel, then I don't know what is. And to add to that, the ghost of Fox is dead helps you to find your way out of Venom once Andross has been defeated.
Don't ever give up, my son.
Father?
Follow me, Fox. You've become so strong, Fox.
Now that's what I call a spiritual guide. Next up is the Academy of Evil from Crash Twinsanity. The area where Crash and Cortex travel all over the school to get Nina Cortex to help fight the evil twins.
Ah, yes, the old alma mater. As a former student myself, I'm well acquainted with the many secrets this institution holds.
You travel through all sorts of areas here. The underground sewers, the part where Cortex gets stuck in a pipe.
I'm stuck! The greatest evil scientist in the world! Stuck in a pipe. How could things get any worse?
The boss fight with Dingo Dial.
Cozy, ain't it? Rumour is you two chumps have got your mitts in some treasure, and I want a piece of that pie.
I have no idea what you just said.
And finally, inside the academy itself. Not only can you find Nina there, but you also have to deal with the head of the school, Madame Amberly.
You are in detention.
Madam Amberly.
So, crybaby Cortex is all grown up. I see you found employment as a barber.
I'm an evil scientist.
A scientist of it. To me, you'll always be a little verb.
Looks like Cortex is ready to confront his past. I bet a lot of people felt that way about teachers they didn't like. And now for the number one spooky level or area on the top 10 list. The final spooky level on this list is the Chauncey boss fight from Luigi's Mansion. I mean, what better game to include than this? It starts when Luigi enters Chauncey's room and gets his attention. Sure, it starts off innocent-like until Luigi hits him with a ball using his Poltergust 3000. Next thing you know, the baby shrinks him down to size. Then we have this creepy, big, low-pitched baby cry. Yeah, that's gonna scream nightmare fuel for me for a while. Then you're having a boss fight of your life with rocking horses and balls. My opinion, this just makes the boss fight with the giant baby Bowser from Yoshi's Island look like a joke. Imagine having to hear that scream so late at night, especially when you try to sleep. Okay, so I'm just gonna vamoose out of here before I really get irritated. And so, this concludes the top 10 spooky levels and areas in video games. I hope this episode scared the pants out of you. Just a little humor there. But seriously, before I wrap up this episode, here's a game wordplay. And this week's game wordplay is Shock Guy. This describes a situation where just when you thought you were about to complete a level, a bad guy shows up by surprise and halts your progress by making you lose a life, forcing you to redo that level all over again. Shocking, isn't it? And so ends another episode of Games in Gear. Until then, this is Clyde Monster signing off. Okay, who let the crying baby in here? Someone needs to change his diaper. Oh boy. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Games in Gear. To see more new content, click on the subscribe button and click the bell to get the notifications. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram and like us on Facebook. There's more exciting stuff to come, so stick around.